All right, so Anthony Joshua has finally made his decision on who will be his broadcast partner for the foreseeable future, and he has gone with Dazn. Game changed? Question mark. Let's talk about it. Before we do, my name's Rahul J. Chan. This is the Battle Camp. Thank you very much for joining me. If you're new to the channel, please do consider subscribing. So look, this has been going on for about 6 weeks, 2 months. Where will he go? Sky or DAZN? Sky or DAZN? And it looks as though for the last 6 weeks, 7 weeks that Sky was a front runner. And then 3 or 4 days ago, rumours started spreading that Anthony Joshua's chosen DAZN. And it got made official yesterday with a press release from DAZN and quotes from all parties concerned. And that's what really I want to do. Just have a quick look at how this might affect the boxing landscape and discuss how this impacts all of the stakeholders involved. So let's start with the man himself, AJ. So what made him choose DAZN? Now, according to his press release, not only will AJ be exclusively fighting on the DAZN platform, this deal has also made him a shareholder, a special advisor, and a brand ambassador for the business. Now, look, man, we don't know how many shares he's got, and shares fluctuate. We don't know what it actually means to be called a special advisor. And when it comes to being a brand ambassador, that is such a difficult term to define because it means something different for each individual and the organization they're involved with. So I'm going to move all of that aside, throw out the window, and just speculate that it probably just came down to the pound note. And I believe it's very likely that the deals that he was offered are probably quite similar, but it was a less risky move going with DAZN because they probably offered him more guaranteed money. Let me explain. So we know that Sky Box Office is a platform that that works in a way in which what you earn is directly correlated to how many pay-per-view sales you achieve, right? Whereas I'm assuming that DAZN, because it's a brand new platform and we know that they don't have the reach or the pull or the kind of brand awareness amongst the general public, that it's very likely that anytime he fights on DAZN, that the pay-per-view numbers on that platform are likely to be a lot less than on Sky Sports. So they probably offered him more money up front and then bonuses if he achieves certain numbers when it comes to the sales, right? So that's probably one of the reasons why he's chosen DAZN. Also, let's face it, Anthony Joshua is at a real crossroads in his career. Because if he beats Usyk, he's back world champion and he can shoot for the moon and try to make a fight with Tyson Fury, which will be probably the biggest fight in British boxing history, right? But if he loses, he's on that road back, right? And he'll be fighting contenders and not champions in the heavyweight division. And if he was to do that on Sky Sports, would that mean that the numbers that he generates don't equate to what he has done in the past, right? So that might be one of the reasons why he's chosen DAZN. Another obvious reason is Adam Smith spoke about loyalty so much when talking about why he's confident about AJ signing for Sky Sports. But Eddie Hearn has been his promoter for his entire professional career. And you'd imagine that AJ was in a position where he was kind of weighing up the two options. But when loyalty and emotions come into it, you'd imagine that he's very close to Eddie Hearn because let's not forget, like, when was it, a year or two ago, he announced that he committed his entire boxing career to Matchroom and Eddie Hearn. So you have to be quite close to a man and quite trusting of a man to do that, right? So that might have played into it because obviously Eddie Hearn has a vested interest in delivering for DAZN, his broadcast partner. So maybe that kind of, helped him make the decision he made. So while we're talking about Eddie Hearn, let's just quickly say, right, he's probably breathing a massive sigh of relief when this decision got made official. Because to me, it feels as though he's under a little bit of pressure or stress. Maybe not pressure, but he feels as though he's more stressed these days in the way in which he conducts himself in the multiple interviews he does on a weekly basis with all of the usual suspects, right? But aside from that, like, I don't know how happy Dazn are with what he's delivered to them so far by his boxing content. But one thing that I'd imagine, again, I'm speculating here, is the powers that be at Dazn would expect Eddie Hearn to be able to help sell Dazn to AJ if the packages being offered between Dazn and Sky are similar, right? Because Eddie Hearn is Dazn's man, and Eddie Hearn is has been AJ's promoter for his entire career. Now, if AJ chose Sky Sports and Eddie Hearn wasn't able to get AJ to pick Dazn, and the packages on offer were similar, or Dazn's package was better, then that would be a difficult conversation for Eddie Hearn to have with with the bosses at Dazn. Do you know what I mean? One thing that I do find quite funny while I'm on Eddie Hearn is all of last week he'd been saying how there's going to be a decision, official decision on the fight, the date of the fight, and the details around the fight, and then there'll be did I say decision there? There'll be an official announcement on the date and the details of the AJ Usyk fight, and then there'll be an official announcement on the broadcast partner. That's what Eddie Hearn said on multiple interviews, and then out of nowhere, this announcement came on Monday directly from Dazn. So it makes you think, like, you'd imagine that this is something that they would have discussed, or maybe it's just Dazn saying, no, actually, we're the ones who got this deal. AJ signed to us, even though you're the promoter, so we'll choose when we make it public, right? It's kind of gone again, the message that Eddie Hearn was given last week. But who knows, maybe I'm just making a mountain out of a molehill in my own head. But maybe there's a bit of a dick swinging contest going on over here between Dazn, the people at Dazn, and Eddie Hearn. Speaking of Dazn, there is a lot of risk from their part. I've touched on this earlier, right? If AJ wins against Usyk, then they're off to the races. But if he loses, they've offered to pay him whatever they budgeted for his however remaining fights, and they have to be good on that contract. Now, maybe obviously there's clauses in place where if it's a title fight, he gets X amount. If it's just a fight against a top contender, it's X amount. But in order for AJ to sign the deal, it still has to be a attractive offer, right? Now, the game here is how much revenue will Dazn generate from these 2 events a year that AJ is going to be part of? Like, what is the end goal here for Dazn, right? And look, I was talking about Eddie Hearn and are Dazn happy with what he's delivered so far? Like, he can only do with what he can with his fighters, right? They knew who he had in the stable before they decided to, make him this deal to move to Dazn from Sky. But it's also incumbent on Dazn to deliver other sports to the platform to help Eddie Hearn get eyes on his content, right? Because Dazn isn't supposed to be a boxing platform. It's supposed to be a sports platform. The Netflix of sports, right? Now, we know that they tried to take over BT, and they failed in that. And with that takeover attempt, what they were trying to do is get the licensing for other mainstream sports. And now we're in a place where they were sitting there with no major deals coming up for renewal or deals for other sports that they could bid on. And they thought, we got to do something here, which is probably why they were so aggressive in trying to get AJ over to their platform. Like, I personally don't know why Dazn didn't try and move heaven and earth to get the UFC. The UFC recently renewed their deal with BT Sport, a multi-year deal, right? But it only just happened a couple of months ago or a couple of weeks ago. How long ago? Maybe about 4 weeks ago, 5 weeks ago. And when that got announced, I was thinking to myself, why didn't Dazn go for the UFC? Like, there's overlap between the current audience and people like myself who watch boxing and MMA. But there's also independent viewers of both sports. So it would have definitely, I'm telling you now, it would have brought in thousands of subscribers, because there are many people, myself included, that only subscribe to BT Sport because of the UFC. And the UFC provide content on near enough a weekly basis. Like, it's enough to justify £8 a month or whatever. Who knows? Maybe Dazn did try. Maybe the UFC didn't want to go to that platform. But to me, it doesn't make sense because in America, the UFC is on ESPN Plus, which is an online app, right? It's an online platform. So they've seen it work in America. You'd think with that there'd be less kind of apprehension for them to go with Dazn in the UK, but I don't know, right? Maybe they did bid for it, maybe they did try, but I suppose the point I'm trying to make is they like, as much as it's on Eddie Hearn to bring in subscribers to the platform, it's as incumbent on Dazn. Like, they need to bring in their own subscribers with other sports. They can't just rely only on Eddie Hearn and then look down on him because their business is failing, because boxing isn't a mainstream sport, right? It's not one of the big sports in the UK, right? So that's kind of where they are. There's a lot of risk on their part when it comes to AJ, depending on how he performs in August against Usyk and what his next fights after that are going to be. When it comes to Sky themselves, obviously I think it would have been a feather in the cap for the boxing team, for Adam Smith, etc., to get AJ to stay on Sky and snub Dazn. But I don't think it makes a massive difference to Sky as an organisation. Obviously, they enjoy the money that AJ fights generate, but it won't be the bread and butter or the backbone of Sky's boxing content, right? Because like I say, he only fights twice a year. They need to focus on building their own roster, because you can't really call it a stable, because they've got Boxer, they've got agreements with it. I don't know, it's quite weird with the way that it's been working with Sky and different promoters, because you got Chris Eubank Jr. who fights on Sky, for example, and he's not with Boxer. But the point I'm trying to make is it would have been a bonus to get Anthony Joshua. I don't think it's a massive thing that they're overly upset about, etc. One thing that I do quickly want to say is, with AJ going to Dazn, how will this affect his future opponents, right? Now look, we saw Canelo having to go and fight Caleb Plant on Showtime because the PBC wouldn't allow Caleb Plant to fight on Dazn, right? Can we see a similar situation with Tyson Fury, in terms of Tyson Fury refusing to fight on Dazn, saying no, I refuse to fight on Dazn, I only fight on BT Sport, for example. Now, as far as I understand, his current deals with BT and with Top Rank, etc., they've all expired. I don't know, I can't remember, but I feel as though he's a free agent. So if AJ wins in August, then Dazn are going to have to put their hand back in their pocket to get Tyson Fury over for that one fight. But aside from that, you'd imagine with AJ always being the cash cow, effectively the financial A side in any fight that he's involved with, he can get guys to come over and fight him on Dazn. But the one thing I worry about is Tyson Fury, whether that deal can be made. And time will tell. Time will tell. But it's interesting times in British boxing, with all of these different broadcasters going head to head and trying to be the number one broadcaster, as well as the promoters. Let me know what you guys think. I've gone on a little bit longer than I intended to, but let me know what you guys think about the points that I've raised in this video. Let me know if you think I've missed anything, or if I'm wrong or inaccurate on anything that I've said. Feel free to share your opinions. Be respectful, and don't be stupid. And what's the right way of saying this? Don't be dense in the way you express yourself. Do you know what I mean? If you're going to say something, read it back and make sure it makes sense. Otherwise, don't bother. But aside from that, you're more than welcome and free to say whatever you like. And while you're here, like, share, comment, and subscribe, all of that good stuff. I'll catch you guys next time.